It's just, so here's another scientist, just for fun. This is James Lovelock, the creator of the Gaia hypothesis. And he's also giving us a scientific way of thinking of a very similar idea. He says, physicists are agreed that life is an open system, but like one of those Russian dolls which enclose a series of smaller and still smaller dolls, life exists within a set of boundaries. The outer boundary is the Earth's atmospheric edge to space. Within the planetary boundary, entities diminish but grow ever more intense as the inward progression grows from Gaia, the whole planet, the whole Earth, to ecosystems, to plants and animals, to cells and DNA. The boundary of the planet then circumscribes a living organism, Gaia, a system made up of all the living things and their environment. There is no clear distinction anywhere on the Earth's surface between living and non-living matter. Now, here's what I like about that. I really, really like the idea that the, I threw it away too quickly. I like the idea that the Earth is a grand unified system of life. I find that enormously appealing. I also really, really like the idea that we individual human beings and our human societies are part of this grand unified system of life. I find that a really enlightening, really inspirational idea. In fact, I think that it's just a magnificent idea. You know, I cannot help but be amazed by the intellectual and imaginative powers of those philosophers and scientists and mystics and people who dreamed it up. However, here's the part about it that really bugs me. I'm very deeply skeptical about what this vision can teach about ethics. For ethical concepts and principles do not emerge from mystical visions, nor do they emerge from scientific principles. They emerge from practical human relationships. It might be interpersonal, it might be social, it might be economic or political. But they emerge from the meeting place between people, between individuals and between groups, between human beings and the greater immensities of the world in which we live. They take place in the thick of all of our problems and imperfections and conflicts and distractions. So this unity of the world and the revelation of our participation in it is not a commandment to be obeyed. So that, remember those three arguments I put up there? I think that the inference from the second to the third is actually a non sequitur. I think it doesn't follow. This unity of the world, it doesn't teach us anything about how we are to live. The world just is. The unity of the world and the revelation of our belonging to it is a question to be answered and a problem to be resolved. That's how I see it now. Ethical ideas like our universal compassion emerge from the human response to cosmic visions of unity like that. And I think, again, that that's a really magnificent thing to see. We belong to the Earth. We're members of a global and cosmic togetherness. But the ethical significance of that membership is a product of our thinking and our dialogue with others. It's not something that the Earth just sort of hands to you and you obey or not. Okay? Now there's a series of family-related concepts which tend to appear as recurring themes in the mythology of ancient people, the Celts, the Norse, Scandinavians, Homeric Greeks, Germanic and Teutonic people, other Iron Age and Bronze Age Europeans. To some extent you find this in Near Eastern people as well, like the Sumerians around the time of the composition of the Epic of Gilgamesh. And you find it in the mythology of Aboriginal people too, you know. This concept appears as a sequence of questions and answers exchanged between human beings and the great immensities of the world in which they live. First, there is a given problem presented by something in the world. Then there is an asserted response to that problem from us, which might be expressed individually or socially. The response is always one of two things. It is always either something which protects people from the dangers associated with this given problem, whatever it might be, or it is that which crafts those given problems into revelations of meaning. This is, by the way, book plugging stuff, because this is all coming out in The Other Side of Virtue as well. Now we today are in possession of much better scientific knowledge than they were, so we can't craft the same kind of mythology. We can't really do it the same kind of way. But I do think we have to craft relationships between each other and between us and the natural world, just like ancient people had to do. Here's one of the ways I'd like to suggest that it could be done. Like I say at the beginning, it's a basic premise in my mind that whatever it is you're doing, or looking at, or working on, well, that's part of the world. Whatever it is you're affecting is part of the world. That's the tautology. It's so obvious that it's just trivial. We've practically forgotten to mention it anymore. But it's there. Once in a while a philosopher will mention it. Like here's Paul Ricoeur, famous, well-known French philosopher, saying that the Earth is here something different and something more than a planet. It is the mythical name of our corporeal anchoring in the world. So here he's implying not just that we share with the earth all the organic material elements necessary for life, but he's also saying that our way of being is an earthy way of being. You know, it's like an existentialist notion, although I think it owes more to Heidegger than to Sartre, but this is what he has in mind, and I think that that's kind of an important thought. So we have all become very used to this fact. That's why we hardly ever mention it anymore. But once in a while, something will happen, and the earth will appear to us as something immense, something capable of making us feel small and at a loss. When I was living in Newfoundland, I met this retired fisherman who told me that he never went to Mass ever again after having weathered out a sea storm in his little fishing boat. This was not because the experience made him question the existence of God, but actually quite the opposite. The experience confirmed the existence of God for him. And he said to me, the waves of the sea taught me more about God than anything the priest ever said in Mass. The huge rollers sure make you feel small and make you feel mortal, and I think it is good for a man to feel that way sometimes. I think this fisherman's remark was very profound. It indicated he understood something about the immensity that I think all of us really do intuitively understand, which is that every once in a while the earth will really shove itself in your face like this, you know. Not only is it revealed, but it's revealed here, you know. And it alters the perspective you have of yourself. It alters the way you see yourself, and that alteration of your self-image or your self-awareness can change your way of living and being in the world. And the earth can appear as an immensity like that, even in circumstances that are not actively threatening or dangerous. For instance, when I was living in the west of Ireland, I spent a great deal of time walking along the cliffs of Connemara and the mountains there. And 4 times I visited the Aran Islands, with their great cliffs overlooking the sea. There's a picture of it there. And I walked right along this. See this edge? That's an 80-foot drop. That's a long way down. And there's other places further along the coast that are even higher. I think that's a 200-foot drop at the top of the photograph there. And that's not the highest cliffs in the west of Ireland. The highest cliffs in the west of Ireland are thousands of feet above the sea level there. And I remember the first time I was walking along here, well, it wasn't a sunny day like this photograph. It was actually kind of miserable and crap and raining. But you know what? It was amazing anyway, because it made everything feel heightened. You know, it made everything feel as if everything is a matter of life and death. Maybe it was, you know, as close as I got to this cliff here. You know, if I tripped or if I caught my ankle in one of the grinds and the cracks in the, you know, and fall to my screaming death. Oh, but what a beautiful place to die in. You know. In fact, at one time I thought, wouldn't it really be beautiful to just sort of throw myself over the edge? Well, I killed that thought right away. You can't stay in that headspace for very long. But this is one of the ways in which the earth appears to us as an immensity. One of the ways in which it appears to us in this unignorable revelation of its presence and its danger sometimes. But it's the way in which our response to it becomes important. So it's important to us for all these different reasons. You know, the first line of Wittgenstein's Tractatus, he says, the world is all that is the case. Well, he could have added, and nothing less, right? Because, you know, this plain fact alone should be enough to fill your mind with excitement and wonder. Whatever else you might believe about afterlife worlds and spiritual parallel dimensions or Platonic realms of intellectual purity, nevertheless, the embodied world, this world right here, is our home. That's where we live. All the experiences we have it of this. All the thoughts and ideas we have it in reference to this somehow, implicitly or explicitly. And what an amazing home it is. The second reason that the earth is the foremost of immensities is because it's the planet of such wonderful and extraordinary variety. Look, we've got sharp mountain crags, we've got these humongous vast prairies, we've got jungles and cold Arctic glaciers, we've got stormy seas and dry deserts. You know, the earth is really quite romantic if you think about it. It's got all of this stuff going on. And however much you may think you know the world, there's always going to be something more that you haven't got yet. You can't explore the whole earth in a single lifetime. No one person can do that. However much of the earth you've explored, there will always be something more that you haven't yet explored. There will always be something else on the other side of the next hill. And you can plan in advance by reading maps, right? Or reading weather reports, but that's just not the same thing as being there. The world is an immensity in that respect.